I'm 38 years old, and over the last 5 years, I've experimented with every major peptide you guys see online. If I only had one shot at picking 3 peptide stacks for building lean muscle as I got older in my 30s, 40s, and 50s, these are the stacks that would be in my arsenal. Let's be honest. Trying to build muscle naturally over 30 sucks. And to be honest, it's probably not gonna happen. And when you guys look at your physique progress, in hindsight over the last 6 months, nothing probably even happened. So in this video, I'm gonna break down the 3 peptide stacks that restore growth hormone signaling, amplify insulin growth factor, which is IGF-1, and accelerate tissue recovery. Now, if you're new here, my name is Nick Trigili. I'm a former IB Pro bodybuilder. I'm a performance coach to thousands of men across the world who've taken their physique to the next level through my biohacking program. Nothing in this video is medical advice, though. These are research peptides. These results will dramatically vary based on your biology, your training history, your health, your lifestyle. And you guys should always consult with your physician before starting any peptide protocol. Now we got that out of the way, let's dive into it. CJC 1295 and Ipamorelin. This is stack number 1 because, well, you guys need to understand something first. Peptides do not build muscle. They do not blow you up like steroids would, an anabolic hormone, androgen hormones. What they do is, though, they restore the anabolic signaling. And this is the environment that your body had, let's say, in your 20s. And that's why it was so much easier to build muscle then. So they're gonna fix your growth hormone pulse. And this is the frequency of it, your IGF-1 production. So when you're in your early 20s, your pituitary gland releases growth hormone in sharp pulses. So it's like a really sharp knife, right? Imagine cutting something with a dull knife. It doesn't work that well. You gotta really struggle to cut something. Now, usually this is gonna happen 6 to 8 times per day. And the biggest pulse usually happens when you're in deep sleep. This is REM sleep. The growth hormone now gets converted into IGF-1 in your liver. And the IGF-1 is the biggest, most important anabolic workhorse in your body. Way more than testosterone levels. And this is gonna tell your muscle cells to basically absorb amino acids, synthesize protein, and our favorite word, grow. Now, after 30, this growth hormone pathway gets very weak. By 40, you're probably only getting, let's say, 2, 3 pulses per day, and they're very dull. But in reality, they're probably half as strong. And the peptides are gonna restore this signaling, this environment. So it's gonna be much stronger now. Now, this is how it works, theoretically. CJC 1295, first off, is a growth hormone releasing hormone. It's an analog. So this basically tells your pituitary gland, right, to release more growth hormone. But here's the difference between CJC and injecting, let's say, just synthetic growth hormone. Synthetic growth hormone is just gonna flood your system. It's gonna constantly elevate your growth hormone levels 24/7, 365. Now, because you're doing that, it's gonna shut down your natural production of growth hormone. Now, CJC works with your body's natural growth hormone pathways. So all it's gonna do is amplify those pulses that you already have instead of actually just masking them, replacing them, overriding them. Now, CJC comes in 2 forms. You guys probably heard this before. With DAC or without DAC. Now, DAC stands for something very specific. Drug Affinity Complex. Basically, it's a really complex acronym for the half-life of the peptide. So it extends the half-life from a few hours to about a week. Now, most guys are gonna run CJC with DAC because they don't have to inject it 1-2 times a week. It's way easier, not a daily injection. It's way more enjoyable to use. But here's what most people don't understand. The longer the half-life means more constant growth hormone elevation, which in return is not good for you. It can cause desensitization if you run it for too long a period of time. This is why I prefer, if you're gonna use CJC 1295 without DAC. This is for most people, this is not everybody, because it's gonna mimic your natural pulses. Way better. Even though it requires more frequent injections, it's way better off for results. Now, let's talk about Ipamorelin. This is where the magic is gonna really happen because Ipamorelin is the secretagogue. They call it a GH secretagogue. This basically tells your growth hormone to get released from your pituitary gland. Now, unlike these other compounds that came out before it, you probably heard of them before, GHRP6. There's another one called GHRP2. These are not gonna spike cortisol, and it's not gonna spike prolactin, which is really ugly when it does happen. That makes a big difference because when you have elevated cortisol levels, they're very catabolic. What does catabolic mean? You're not gonna be retaining muscle. Ipamorelin gives you that clean, very effective pulse, growth hormone pulse, without those side effects. So now when you stack CJC 1295 with Ipamorelin, you're hitting both these mechanisms at one time with one shot, right? And the result is a sharp, natural growth hormone pulse that converts right into IGF-1. which drives the muscle growth, which gives you really good tissue repair. And this is the fundamental part of this stack. Now let's talk about the dosing of these peptides. So CJC 1295 without DAC, you're shooting for 1 to 200 micrograms per injection. Typically 5 days on, 2 days off. Ipamorelin, on the other hand, shooting for 2 to 300 micrograms per injection, 5 days on, 2 days off. Now you can inject these together, always subcutaneously, not intermuscularly. And the best timing options are typically, if we're gonna use them both at the same time, half that dose in the morning, first thing in the morning when you get up, half the dose right before bedtime. And the frequency, like I said, 5 days on, 2 days off. And the rest strategy, always try to take off 2 days in a row, don't split them up. You want them concurring, so like right after each other. And you wanna run this for at least minimum 12 to 16 weeks. If you guys cut it out too early, you're not gonna really notice the benefits, if it really worked, how well it's working. We need to adjust the dose. Give it time, and you can use it for longer, but I would start there. Now, what you guys are gonna notice immediately after a couple weeks, better sleep, better recovery, your joints are gonna feel better, your skin's gonna look better, your hair's gonna look better, and body composition is gonna be very noticeably different. I would say you're gonna start to notice the sweet spot is 4 to 8 weeks. But understand this, it doesn't necessarily mean it's gonna happen for everybody in that period of time. It could happen sooner, it could happen after. And this is not a magic hormone like steroids are, so you gotta give it time. But here's the thing, if your training is not aligned properly with what your goals are, your diet, your protein intake sucks, if you're not sleeping much, let's say 3, 4, 5 hours a night, this stack is not gonna do anything for you. Because peptides are gonna amplify what's there, what you give it. They don't create the results out of thin air, unfortunately, like steroids typically do. They give people unimaginable results without putting much effort into them. But when the fundamentals are dialed in, this removes this bottleneck you're having with your biology. And this is typically what's holding people back. And this is why it's my go-to stack for men over 30. Now, this is just the foundation, right? If you want something more aggressive, we're talking about recomping your body, let's talk about the next stack. Now, this is stacking Sermorelin and Tesamorelin. Now, these are amazing to use because both are GHRH peptides. They're not secretagogues. Remember, secretagogues are gonna trigger the release of the stored growth hormone. GHRH peptides, they basically tell your pituitary gland to produce more growth hormone. And this makes a big difference because it matters if your pituitary response is dull or not, which happens to most men over 40, let's be honest. And Tesamorelin is very unique because it specifically works and targets your visceral fat. The visceral fat is not cosmetic. It's always 100% anti-catabolic because it's gonna increase aromatization, so your estradiol, your estrogen's gonna go up. It raises inflammation in the body, which is fluid, stress, and it makes your insulin signals very dull. So you start to develop more insulin resistance. Now, Tesamorelin is gonna restore the growth hormone signaling while it's reducing the visceral fat at the same damn time. Now, let's talk about the dosing of these two amazing peptides. Sermorelin, you could start with anywhere between 250 to 500 micrograms daily. I've had guys go up to 1 milligram daily. Tesamorelin, I would say the sweet spot is 500 micrograms to 1 milligram daily. You can inject them together subcutaneously. Now, timing, I always stick with something very similar, just like I mentioned earlier with the 5 days on, 2 days off approach. I would say the duration always is 12 to 16 weeks with any GH peptide. Now, the benefits right away, better sleep, a lot less bloating, water retention going down, recovery is gonna be way better. And your body composition is gonna start to change a little bit later on. Now, here's the advanced layer of this protocol. Most men typically don't convert growth hormone to IGF-1 that well. And this is where my favorite peptide of all, IGF-1-LR3. This is not for beginners at all. This is gonna bypass the entire pathway that activates the IGF-1 receptor directly. It's got a much longer half-life. The signal is way more powerful. And, well, you gotta be careful because the saturation of the receptor can happen very easily. I would say these blasts with IGF-1, parallel to these other peptides, is typically like a 4 to 8, 6 to 8 week blast. And the use cases are great for non-responders or really poor liver conversion and people that want an aggressive recomposition phase to happen. People that really wanna push it. My favorite protocol, or I should say uses of IGF-1 would be typically around your workout. I like 30 minutes to 45 minutes pre-workout on your weight training day specifically. anywhere between 100 to 200 micrograms, depending on where people's, let's say, IGF levels are or how they're feeling, right? It could vary. And as far as the frequency goes, let's say you're training 4 or 5 times a week, that's fine. Definitely have 1 or 2 days off of IGF-1, but make sure you're monitoring your glucose levels because, well, hypoglycemia is real on this. So you may get shaky, you may get dizzy, you may get foggy. If that's happening, well, your carbohydrate intake has to increase. You have to adjust your nutrition and make sure you're well hydrated and make sure absorption is very well with your gut. Because if you guys are not absorbing foods, well, this can get pretty ugly really quick because you're not gonna be able to regulate your glucose very well. Now, stack number 3 is BPC 157, TB 500. This is all about recovery and healing and accelerating this process. This is not anabolic at all. This is all about giving your body more resiliency and better capacity to heal. Because BPC 157 is gonna do a couple things. It's gonna improve your gut integrity, it's gonna lower inflammation, and it's gonna improve your absorption of nutrients. While TB 500 is gonna focus on your muscle health, your tendon health, your ligament health, and your joint health. Now, together, when you stack these, they remove this recovery issue that most men face as they get older, which I call the bottlenecking issue. Now, I'm gonna go into more of that in a second. The dosing, BPC 157, injectable, right? 500 micrograms to 1 milligram daily for the loading phase, which is gonna vary between 4 to 6 weeks. TB 500, you're gonna use it typically 2 times a week, maybe 3 times a week. I would say anywhere between 1 to 4 milligrams in the frequency I just told you. Now, you're gonna run this for up to 10 to 12 weeks, depending on what the use case is for. If you have an injury, for example, well, you're gonna wanna start this immediately and make sure you use it long enough to heal the injury that you're going through or maybe the surgery that you're recovering from. Now, the results, faster recovery. I mean, lightning speed. The joint pain, probably be gone for the most case for most people. Training consistency is gonna be much better because, well, the soreness, the lactic acid buildup, it's gonna be pretty much non-existent. Now, you could stack this with either stack 1 or 2, or if you guys are using your own stacks to build muscle, it's gonna work just fine with them because they're non-hormonal. They're not gonna affect any of the other signaling from the other peptides or hormones that you're using. That's why I love this peptide stack because, well, it's very flexible to use. And these signals, plus the capacity that you guys were talking about earlier, is gonna equal much better progress long-term, and you're gonna feel much healthier and look much healthier. So there you have it. Those are the 3 peptide stacks that help you guys restore anabolic signaling. They're gonna help your recovery. They're gonna help you build more muscle as you guys get older. Now remember this, peptides only work when the dosing is set up properly. The compounds are from a legit 503A, 503B compound pharmacy here in the United States. Your blood work is being monitored, so make sure you guys get a baseline before you use any of these items. And also, the fundamental things are dialed in. Your training, your nutrition, your sleep, your stress levels. Make sure you're doing these things properly. And if you guys are like, man, this is too complicated for me, and you guys want help implementing this, and you want medical oversight, and you want something personally made for you, protocol-wise, there's a link in the description. Click on it. It's the first one. Book a call on my team. We work with men over 30 who want to achieve an elite physique without destroying their health in the meantime. So if you guys feel like this helped you out, subscribe, drop a comment, and tell me what protocol you guys want broken down next. And as always, I'm gonna see you guys on the next video.